Meeting subject will be the Plone CMS, open source content management. I'll allow Nathan to do most of the Plone talking so that I don't take away your introduction. But the presenter today is Nathan VanGheem, who has been working on open source Python web technologies since before his graduation at the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh in December of 2009. Nathan has been a contributor of Plone for about 2.5 years and has created many open source add-ons for the CMS. He currently works at Wildcard Corp, building and integrating web technologies. Gentlemen, and any ladies who may be on the web, Nathan.
Alright, so Plone, basically, yeah, you already did all that stuff for me. So this is the stuff that I'll be talking about, basically what it is, what it can do, who uses it, and deploying it, and if you should use it. Basically through the whole presentation, feel free to ask questions whenever, and interrupt me whenever you want. I'm assuming everyone here is pretty technical, so I won't withhold any of the gritty details if I come across them. So some background on Plone. It's obviously an open source project. Content management system is a pretty broad term these days. Like even WordPress is considered content management system, but I spelled enterprise wrong. Don't mind that. It's an enterprise level content management system. So like it probably doesn't necessarily compete with Drupal as much, or like Joomla. It's more like on the lines of competing with SharePoint. Like the bigger, higher level ones are, some of the more Java ones and stuff like that. And it's Python based, GPL2.
Is it Python 2 or 3?
It's Python 2.6. It's on
2.6?
Yeah. And the trademark is owned by Plone Foundation, so it's not owned by any company. So it's kind of, they figured that whole Hudson type situation out before that ever happened. You guys know, are familiar with what happened to the Hudson projects. Oracle kind of tried to consume them, and Oracle bought Java and everything, so they also owned this Hudson project, which is a continuous integration server. Anyways, Oracle disagreed with the developers on it, and the developers decided to fork it, but Oracle decided they wanted to keep the trademark, so they had to change the name to Jenkins or something. So, anyways.
Oracle's great that way.
Oh yeah,
they're awesome.
Open source community.
We love Oracle.
They're taking over.
Yeah, Plone's very friendly to contributors. They let a lot of people have access to their main repository, and they have like a collective repository. Still, everything is in Subversion that they give like almost anybody access to, and so they have probably around like 200 contributors that's commit to core every year, about 200 different people, which is quite a bit considering compared to other projects. And what they do is they just monitor commit logs for code review and stuff like that. So it hasn't been a problem, and they make sure everything is tested before it's released in a package, anyways. Like ever since I started, right from when I started developing like packages and stuff like that, like some of the main guys, like the people who wrote the books for it, were contacting me and like kind of encouraging me. So like this is a really good community, and it's like an international community, people all around the world kind of working on it. So it's kind of cool. It's built off of the ZODB, so that's like an object-oriented database. It's kind of been around for a while, and it's not really NoSQL, but can kind of be considered a NoSQL variant. It was around way before NoSQL ever was even thought of, I guess, or that the word was coined, phrase. So I'll just go through the basic installation. It's pretty simple. I'm not gonna like do it with you because it's pretty easy. You just download the installer. They have installers for every operating system, and it comes with a built-in web server. So all you have to do is run like instance start command, and you can run in foreground with FG parameter, and everything for like settings and installing packages and stuff is you put in this build-up file, and so you just list the different add-on packages you want, and then you run this command. It downloads all those packages and all the versions of them that you specify, and then installs them for you.
Is this like the web server that's built in, is it like a testing server? Or is this actually the server
it's
that...
the deployment server too.
Okay.
It's the testing and deployment. So typically, well, I'll get into the actual deployment a bit later. For now, we'll just run with that. So I'll go through some like the features of it now, just so you can kind of familiar with what it provides and why it is like an enterprise level CMS, and it's has an intuitive interface. It was co-founded by Alexander Leamy, who now works on he's the usability expert at Mozilla, working for them. He used to work at Google, and he did the new theme, and he kind of designed the way Plone works, and everything is kind of like you're always working within the content. There's not like a different back-end part where you have to go to the management to edit a piece of content. You just, if you're on the page and you want to edit that page, you just click edit right there on that page. So I can kind of give you a little demonstration of that right here. So this is just the front page of this Plone site. So you can just click edit right. Oh, okay. Oh yeah. Firefox always does that. Hold on a second. So you can click edit, and then you have all the. It has a WYSIWYG editor, of course. Every CMS has that. And has support for tags. You can do like publishing and expiration dates, so after a certain amount of time, the article won't show up anymore. I mean, I guess we don't need to go through everything because it would just be too much to go through. But
So there's a changelog too, I saw?
oh yeah, it has we'll get into that too, as like advanced like versioning support and stuff too. Yeah, so I think that's all I'll get into for now for that. I would say it's like hierarchical content management. So like the pages and the folders and like the content you put into your site kind of defines the structure and the URL structure of your site. So like my example here was I made a folder and it was named a dash folder within a folder, and then the page, and it builds the content or the structure of the site for you like that, because everything's like in this object-oriented database. So each one of these is like an object in the object-oriented database. So just kind of like, it's called traversal. It just finds the object that it wants to display to the user. And all the navigation and everything is built in with that too. So you see the breadcrumbs are automatically generated for you. The navigation on the top is automatically generated for you. And it has these different things called portlets, and this is a navigation portlet that automatically generates the navigation for you. So another feature is just the usability and like how easily it's searched to. Google really does well with Plone sites. They usually get really good high rankings. Plone sites do. And it has a built-in live search, and it indexes documents and PDFs and everything for you. I'll kind of demonstrate the live search for you. So, I forget what actually was in that PDF.
My question,
Yep.
how does it handle the back arrow?
What's that?
How does it handle the back arrow?
Oh, the back button?
Yeah, if you hit the back button, what happens if you're on pages and stuff?
It's just, it handles it just like any other.
So it just goes back and forth.
Yeah. It doesn't do any of the like the fragment identifiers or anything like that, if that's what you're asking. So like, okay, going back to usability too. So it has a lot of these like pop-up things, so you don't have to load a completely new page. You can see like history just by easily popping up. The login form is like that, and there's just a lot of different things that are just kind of like easier to get to, faster loading type thing. And another thing going back to usability is it reads really well for blind people and screen readers and stuff. So it passes all those standards for reading for readers.
Are modules and add-ons held to a standard for that too, or is it just?
That's kind of just whatever. Yeah, so that's the problem. Like as an integrator, you'd have to worry about some of the more like flashy type like front pages and stuff like that you'll see as an integrator, you don't have to worry about it on your own. That's gonna speak well to or work well with screen readers and stuff like that. Yeah, internationalization supports a wide variety of languages, and like I said before, the community is from all around the world. It's especially popular in Europe, South America, and Japan. It's actually probably more popular in Europe than it is in America. The last two main Plone conferences have been in Europe. So.
Also, it's cool to say, my CMS is huge in Japan.
Yeah. So has a very advanced and sophisticated workflow system. I don't know, like, I guess how familiar is everybody with the idea of like workflows and stuff, with applications? I don't know, like how far should I get into explaining what that means?
You can get into it a little bit.
So a workflow defines how a piece of content, like who's allowed to view a piece of content in its current state. And that workflow also defines who is allowed to transition it into a different state where other people can view it. So like a simple example is when you first create a piece of content, it's private. Only you can see it. And you can submit that piece of content for publication, and then content editors can say, okay, I like this, it's fine, and then they can submit it. They can actually publish it, and then it's viewable to anybody that visits the site, an anonymous user. And it provides a through the web tool for customizing those workflows. So I'll show you a quick example. So okay, first let's create a news item. So how you create new content is when you're in a folder of the site, you just click Add New, and in this particular folder it only allows you to add news items because this is just the news portion of the site. But anyways, I'll add one, news, I'm not going to actually put any text. It creates it and it's initially private. So then it's only visible to me, and then I can either submit for publication, but since I'm also an admin right now, I can just publish it right away. So if I were going to say I didn't like that workflow, or whenever I created a news item, I wanted it to be published right away or something. You can go to site setup. Here, I'll keep going. Tab here. And go to workflow manager. And I'll just create a new workflow that's based off of that simple, that default workflow is a simple publication workflow. I'll call that my new workflow. And then, so these are the states that it has. And so pending review, private, published. And this little star by private means that's where it initially is. And then these are the transitions. So this transition will transition the content to private. And this one, pending review, published, and so on. So basically, if I wanted to make it published right away, I just throw this down and say I want this to be the initial state, and I save it. And then I can assign this custom workflow to the news item type. News item. And I'll just apply the changes. So now if I go back to news and I add a news item, it should be published by default. So then published. Okay, so it can be it's really complicated situations where certain people have access to a piece of content at a certain time. At the university, we use it quite often because we have someone submit an application for something, and then have to go through a certain amount of review processes where different people checked out the content. And gave feedback to that person and stuff like that. So content rules is another feature of forums. So it allows you to, like, when content is changed, it allows you to do different actions on the content. So it's kind of powerful because you can say go to content rules. Actually, I don't know if I want to. It's going to take a little bit more time. Here, I'll do a quick one on that workflow I just made. That'll be easier. So that workflow, you can also, there's like a quick way of creating a content role for when you transition a piece of content. So I'll say when this thing transitions to private, I want to add an action to send an email. I'll say hello, someone.
See you on the call. Yeah. Never mind.
It doesn't really matter. I have a fake mail server up, so it's just going to go to the, it's just going to dump to the command line right now. So I'll go back to news, and I'll go back news item, and I'll put it to, I'll retract it, so that should put it to private, and then if I look, command line, where am I here? Wow.
That's a big terminal.
Right there. So it's sent from someone at nowhere to me at me. Any questions before I keep going on here?
That is pretty cool.
Oh yeah, it says a pretty cool form creation framework too, where you can design your forms, and this is all like an Ajax like form creator where you can drag and drop your form fields and you can do different validations on the forms and do different actions when a form is submitted, like you can do a mail action or you can save the data. And I can show you a quick example of that too, because it's a pretty nice feature.
This is built in.
Well, this is an add-on, but it's like probably the most used add-on for Plone.
A lot of people like it because it is all through the web, and it's just seamless. It works every single time. Especially you can do a validation on every single field entry. It has different field entries for radio buttons, selection boxes, free text entry, multi-select boxes, and it's all enterable through the web. There's no coding involved at all. It's just right on the website.
So can you do custom validation as well?
Yeah.
Or is
Yep.
You can see that's
so it can be as complicated as you want it to
Yep.
be, basically.
It's out of the box. It's pretty simple. You drag and drop. But then on any field, you can do custom Python scripts to validate any particular field in any which way you want.
And you can
Otherwise,
write your
there's standard
Python scripts
validations.
through the web too, so you don't actually have to write like a number package
Mhm.
to do it.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Are they stored?
They're stored in the database, and it's like this restricted Python, so it's you don't like have totally everything. You have to work with what's available to you.
So you can't make like system calls and stuff.
And it looks like it doesn't like the resolution, so I'll just do something quick. You get the point. You just, maybe I have to drag it over here. So you can say validator. Let's validate that it's checked. Save it, and you can view the form. So it shouldn't. Oh, phone number. That's supposed to be a phone number. I guess when I was playing around with this before I said email, but it's actually phone number. Sorry.
How does the parsing go? Does it parse anything that's vaguely resembling a phone number, or do you have to put it in?
It's a U.S. phone number.
But like, does it do dots, dashes all together, or does
I
it
don't
do
know.
parentheses? Because I know,
I'm trying.
as far as validation is concerned, sometimes that's really frustrating to deal with. You know, user, you have to do it in the specific way that I, the programmer, have done it. Oh,
It accepted that one
fair enough.
at least. So yeah, it's pretty powerful and it's very useful. Occasionally you'll have some like very difficult forms where you won't be able to do everything with it. You kind of just have to do it with lots of JavaScript and stuff like that. And you can inject JavaScript into these, but when you get to that point, sometimes you need to use a different form library. That's not through the web. Oh yeah, so this is another really useful part. It allows you to version all your content, and you can compare different versions of your content. Like it gives you diffs of it, and you can revert to different versions and stuff like that. I'll show you that really quick. Oops. Keep that full screen. Firefox. There we go. So if you look at a page, you can just click the history button, and it gives you a list of like admin edited it. And it even tells you that yeah, I submitted for publication and sent it back. And you can compare it to current. Let's do this. I don't think I have much in there. So I must have just added that. Here, let's change this really quick just so we can see what. So I have changed the content.
What determines a version? Do you have to click on something to create a version or
Every time you
snapshot it,
save.
sort of?
Every time you save.
Okay.
Or if you submit it, or if you change the state of it, so if you change it, if you like publish it or retract it or whatever. So if we go back here and compare this one to current, insert newlug. I'm not sure what this does. Interesting. And you can reload it, different versions. That's not anything different. You can kind of, oh, okay, that's more what you want. So remove that, edit that. You can, I'm trying to say here. You can kind of like customize how many versions it keeps and stuff like that because it can, especially with like bigger content, it can get rather large, and it doesn't version like files by default because that can get pretty pricey and performance.
Binary doesn't like the version very well.
Well, yeah. Okay, so it has one of the reasons why a lot of people use it too. It has a very good security track record. It's probably the best of any other CMS, major CMS. Yeah, you can just see in this 3-year vulnerability, there's only been 8 major vulnerabilities in the last 3 years, and you just look at June 1, it's 426. Python is just a lot better language to work with than PHP for one thing, and it's built, the security mechanism is built so like every single like piece of code goes through a security mechanism and everything like that. So everything's wrapped in a security context.
How does that affect performance?
Yeah, it's you need beefier machines to run it. That's for sure. It's not gonna. It's not as fast as what some of the stuff out there is, but it's kind of like any enterprise level content management system is going to be kind of. You need some more hardware to run it, and I'll get into the deployment and kind of what are the requirements and stuff. It's, but actually, like, I should have put this in like benchmarks, latest benchmarks with the newest versions of like Drupal and stuff. Comparatively, it's been faster than the other CMSs, so it does fine. They do a lot of like caching and performance like improvements because they know the type of application that theirs is, and they can like tune the database specifically for that. And object-oriented databases actually fits a CMS really well. Doesn't fit other type of applications always that well very often, but for CMS it works really good. Yeah, it's used by a lot of government agencies because of the security. It's used by FBI, CIA, and stuff like that. And that's actually one of the sites that we work with is the FBI website. So he uses it on NASA, Brazilian government place, and I used it at Oshkosh when I was there. That's where I learned it. Penn State is like huge into it, and they do some like conferences, and they do a lot of development. The current release manager is from Penn State, actually. OpenCourseWare, if anybody's ever gone in there to view like videos and stuff, it's made with Plone. There's a lot. I just cherry picked some of them off of the site list that's registered on plone.org. And for deploying it, so it's like not your typical like PHP deployment where you just like throw some files in a directory and it runs. Like one easy thing is it runs its own web server, so you don't have to like set up Apache and install all these different modules and everything. But it's a long running Python process, so like you can't buy like a simple GoDaddy hosting and run it on it. It's just not going to happen because they don't let you run long running processes on it. And it's pretty like CPU memory heavy. So like typically, like we have some sites that only use. Okay, maybe I won't go too far here. So you can split out your setup into different clients. They're called. So each of them are like a Python process that serves content, and then you like load balance on those different clients, so it gives you better performance. So like for some of our sites, we only have 2 clients, and it's fine. And we have multiple sites on that setup, and it works fine. And then we have caching in front of it, so it's pretty simple setup. But for like FBI.gov, we have like 4 servers that are actively serving 8-core servers that are actively serving content. They're all running 8 processes serving out Plone content. So sometimes if you have like more demand, you really need a lot more CPU power, I think, especially compared to maybe a PHP solution. But it is scalable because you can keep adding more clients, and it connects back to the ZODB. Typically, people deploy it with a forward proxy and use load balancing or caching proxies. Sometimes the caching proxies do the load balancing for you too. And lately, have any of you guys used like Varnish or Squid or any of those caching proxies?
I'm familiar with it, but I haven't used it.
Typically, deployment with Plone now is suggested to use Varnish. And they have a core package that's an add-on, but it's a core package that automatically does purge requests for you on your caching proxy, so it's like integrated for caching proxies. Whereas like Joomla and stuff, they don't do the purge requests. Like a purge request tells the caching proxy, hey, that content is stale now, you need to refresh it. But if your CMS doesn't have support for that, you might have stale content for a while until it just eventually invalidates itself. Below, kind of what I referred to earlier, is kind of like the mechanism for keeping all your configurations and version control, and it allows you kind of to have a repeatable deployment and development setup. And I think that's. Oh yeah. So who is it for? So if you're just thinking that you just want it for like blog, it probably isn't what you want, because you're probably not spending that much for hosting where you get your own VPS and you can run a long-running Python process. But if you have like lots of different content editors and there's lots of permission requirements, and you have some complicated like content, it's definitely useful. It's very useful for intranets too, with all of its indexing capabilities and versioning and stuff like that. It's very useful. So a lot of people. That's why it's a SharePoint competitor too. It's free and it's pretty good for that stuff.
So you said it can index PDFs. What other kind of files can it do?
I think Word docs.
Even like docx, that level?
I don't know about docx. I think you might need to do some, like it might not be mainstream yet, because I think it's kind of hard to do docx.
Yeah, I think they tried to do that on purpose.
Yeah.
Well, check it out.
Tell,
It's
do you know
open
if they have
XML, but it's
docx
not really that
support?
open, and it's kind of not XML.
I think that'd be supported WVHTML or something in one of those packages, and it's XML. I think it's easier. I mean, it's a lot of it's straight text anyways. I don't know if it being XML, so I think they can parse it, but I don't think there's a specific package yet,
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of an annoying thing.
unless you install OpenOffice.
Yeah, who cares about docx? What are you talking about? You guys better not be using docx or anything.
Yeah.
Internet's here.
Of course.
So, any questions? I guess I kind of answered that quickly. I don't know what time it is.
I was curious. I don't know a lot about content management, but how would this vary from like a wiki?
I guess it's more structured and a lot better permission management. But like a wiki's kind of like more free form. I don't know if they have too many like permissions that you deal with, and I don't think they do workflows.
Yeah, the notification process seems like it's a lot more robust in Plone than it would be in any typical
Yeah.
wiki. I mean, it's the way that you describe things changing in their status in the workflow, and the ability to customize pretty much every single step of that. That's a lot of power, which you don't necessarily have with a wiki. Usually, you just have a login, and you can either pretty much do everything or nothing.
Yeah, and
So
wikis
there's-
obviously use wiki markup. This uses a WYSIWYG to edit content too.
So the wiki is more like the community manages the content rather
Yeah.
than
Yeah,
individuals.
I would totally agree with that. I think if you have like a developer community or something, you probably want a wiki more than.
And you can give wiki-ability to the Plone
That's
system.
right. It
But-
does actually come with wiki syntax and stuff too.
Yeah, I mean,
Not many people use it.
So I'm assuming if it's being used by fields for secure things, it also does like SSL or something.
Yeah, oh yeah. Oh, I didn't really get into that. I'm sorry. So
Yeah.
deployment, as far as like the web server stuff goes, so Plone sits as the back end, and you have the front end proxies that ask Plone for the content and then serve that. So if you use Nginx, which is kind of like the suggested server now, you have Nginx that actually secures that.
So that's
that
it
connection.
ahead of it?
Yeah, that'd be the
Okay.
front.
Okay.
So yeah.
Where does that sit with the varnish?
So it varies, I guess, but like what you normally do is you have Nginx go to Varnish, and Varnish has all the different clients clone, so it load balances those clients and pulls the content from that. Nginx is basically meant for it's the best at just like proxying requests really fast. So
Is it a web server or?
it's a web server. There's lots of different. I would totally check it out if you haven't looked at it yet. It's a very very fast web server.
Basically a competitor to Apache.
Yeah, but it does threading a lot differently. So I think Apache, every single request opens a new thread, and it doesn't do that. It's much faster, and it has a lot of really cool features and stuff too. You can actually do your own caching through it if you want.
What was that called again? Varnish?
Nginx.
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 Yeah.
It's made
It
by
looks like Nagix.
Russians.
Oh, I've heard of it.
Yeah, it looks like I'm sorry. I should have.
It's a developer.
I should have explained that a little
I went to the
better.
website and searched it, and it had a phonetic pronunciation, and I was like, "Oh yes, of course, the thing that you've been referring to."
I'm sorry. I'm just so used to it. This is what you get.
Nginx does HTTPS and HTTP, whereas you could also go with pound or HA proxy, but HA proxy doesn't do SSL correctly yet. They're working on it with Stunnel. Nginx is very good at what it does, which is proxying requests in a reverse proxy situation, or you can have limited PHP, and you can do a lot of different little configurations in the syntax, or break out multiple hosts to a particular server so it reverse proxies everything, much like Squid. But Squid was purpose-built for outgoing, not a forward proxy instead of being reverse proxy, even though you can do a lot of stuff with Squid now. The issue with Nginx is that there's some issues with the way it does caching, that it's an add-on module right now, and it does some other stuff a little differently than you want normally. So in that sense,
Yeah.
you'd have Nginx at the front, or HA proxy if it's just pure HTTP, and then behind that, you on a Plone server, we're finding that you run Varnish locally for your local caching.
No, I was just thinking the thing is it's, if you're requiring people to log in and whatever, that you're delusional if you don't have SSL.
Oh
or
yeah,
something.
totally.
Mhm.
Because
This if you're using Main
it's
Cache.
like,
Mhm.
It's like yelling across the room.
it's like, it's,
Hey,
the only reason nobody's breaking in is because they just haven't bothered.
Because they don't care, right? Yeah. So, how does Plone play well with others? As far as if you're saying, I want Plone, but I want to put like something ridiculous on top of it, like jQuery, XJS, and all these
Well,
layers of.
it uses jQuery for all this stuff. It uses
Okay.
jQuery tools for its form pop-ups and stuff like that. What else interesting? I can show you some of the other modules. There's a gallery plugin.
So is this Picasa or Flickr?
This is neither. This images are stored on the
Local.
local. I'm sorry.
Okay.
And then, so if I wanted to go to one of these, I can edit the image too.
That's impressive.
So say you wanna just crop it or something.
Well, and I was thinking how nasty are requirements, like you're just saying, for some big application, you're gonna have to get a little crazy with horsepower, but I'm just thinking if you have fairly light usage, what kind of server requirements?
Yeah, I mean, I have a Linode that I run like 3 or 4 websites off of, and it's got like 512 RAM, and it's just a single processor, and that serves my, and it's got Varnish in front of it too, and it serves fine. And it's
Okay.
two clients only.
Yeah.
And so what's nice about the 2 clients is you can do maintenance on one, and the other one will still serve out requests. So I can install products, restart that server, and then
Okay,
that
so the
other
clients are the ones using Plone, and those don't have to be terribly powerful?
I mean, I think it's definitely it needs to be more powerful than like a PHP solution.
Okay.
Like they
Well-
use both of the clients will use like 128 megabytes of RAM, so it's or more if you do more caching.
I mean, I just get used to the, like some of these deals, some of these solutions where you get a simple application that eats up gigabytes. And, you go say,
it's not. I mean, actually, the way we have it set up on the FBI site, it is like that because we have the cache so much in the database and everything that we want it to use up that much RAM because we want it to serve as much out of RAM as possible. So, but like on my smaller sites, it's fine for.
yeah, okay.
Like we have tons of pages. The FBI site has tons of unique pages, so
Okay.
it really needs to cache a lot more than what a normal site might have to.
We run a site out of for Washington State Contractors Association as well, running on Plone 4, and there's 4 clients, and they hit the server directly, and there's probably on there concurrently 6, 7, 8 people at a time.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know,
for
logging
some
in.
small business, relatively small deal, I mean, unless that's all your business is on there, well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not bad. I guess like it's had these kind of sort of requirements for quite a while. So like it's typically had people thought of it as being resource hungry, but I guess nowadays it's not so much anymore. But back in the day, it was like when everyone was so used to PHP solutions, it was like a lot. Maybe it's not so much
But
anymore.
given the control that Plone has versus, spaghetti of PHP code, I would much rather be supporting something like this than somebody's hacked together PHP stuff. Granted, there's good PHP out there too, but there's also not so good PHP code out there. So,
How resilient is that database?
We haven't had trouble with it. I haven't heard of any. I mean, I'm on.
Because because if this is it, unless if it, oops,
Well,
somebody
what we do
pulled
is-
somebody pulled the wrong cord and the power just died, you know. And
Well, actually, that's what's very nice about this particular system is that with the data FS and the ZODB, even using a distributed replication system, that's when it's committed, it's written to the database. So if it's a corrupted transaction, it's reverted out before it's even
Okay.
committed.
Yeah.
So if you have multiple people going in, and there is a concurrency issue with you have multiple people writing to the same object or the same area,
yeah.
but the only successful one will get there, and the next one will error out, and they have to retry their session because it really is tries to get that session correct and commit it to the database correctly.
Right. Because I mean, I know if you really make an attempt to design your database to be resilient, you can do it. It's just that sometimes they always want to be, oh, we got to be really super fast. And,
Oh, it's actually
Yeah.
slow on writes. It's one of the
Yeah.
pitfalls of the ZODB. Like it can serve out content really fast, but
yeah, but this
for
type of
writing-
application, you don't have hardly any writes. Even in a heavy system, you want like you have a
shouldn't
lot of
as many
writes.
yeah. You shouldn't, unless you have like depends on what your like custom application needs are that you build on top of it, but you really shouldn't have too many writes. Yeah.
What was the name of the database?
CODB.
CODB?
CODB.
Zope Object Database.
It looks like
How many-
Zodb.
How many like editors do you think we have that log into the FBI site? How many do you think we're up to?
50 or 60.
And we don't really have any trouble with concurrent writes or anything like that. So it's not. I'm sure there's applications that do a ton more. I'm sure, but this is just like our experience with it, I guess.
Yeah.
So, as far as when you're looking for plugins, add-ons, and the like, where do you go? Is the responsibility on the content maker, on the content finder? Is there like a
For plugins,
is there like a plugin store?
if you
Is
go
there-
to plone.org and then there's like a downloads link, it should have all the plugins and they're rated now and stuff too. So it's you can usually find the best ones.
is that
Yeah, it's
add-on
totally,
products?
it's completely up to load that package while Python is running, and you have to restart the process because I guess there's like security concerns if you reload, if you add a package to the path while it's running instead of on Python startup kind of thing. So that's one thing that everyone kind of gets annoyed about is every single time you install a new package, you have to restart your server. Whereas like PHP solutions, you just dump it into a folder and it's just there and it works kind of thing. So it's a little different. But it's interesting because everything seems to be kind of going through these long running processes because you see I've been seeing more people going to even serving PHP through Nginx. How they do it is they use a fast CGI thread to run it. So it's actually a long-running PHP process now that's serving out these PHP apps through Nginx. And people like that more because it's faster. And like typically when you have these larger PHP apps that have a lot of PHP code that you load on every single request, but if you have it in a long-running process, it's already loaded right away for you, and you don't have to reload that every single time. So.
You know, like 2 or 3 years ago, there was a backside one. Like there was
Oh, yeah.
DB side.
It's called the Zope.
So
It's like this crude interface for managing content in a different way. You can kind of inspect every single object in the object-oriented database.
It's kind of JBossy. Yeah.
Does it? I haven't actually used that before. What did you say?
How much is this used now?
This should only be used by like administrators. For actual regular people, they don't want people going in here.
But how much is this used now with administrators? Is it used quite heavily, or is it more like when you're doing the initial setup, you set up your templates and stuff in here, and then it's pretty much left alone?
Yeah, I think the only time you really need to use it now is they have this configuration panel that they try to direct everyone through. Okay. Let's open up the tab there. So generally they want you to go through site setup, and this is kind of where they want you to get to everything from right here. But I think I'm trying to think. The only reason why you should go to here is if you want to make templates through the web, like you're talking about. Like you can do a lot of the stuff through the server. Like you don't need to write a Python package to do a lot of the custom stuff. So you can write your own like templates to make it look differently through the web, and it saves it all. And you can write your own Python scripts through the web. So like if you wanted to do something like that, you usually go through here, or if you like need to recatalog the index or something like that, that's the only thing I ever use it for though, really.
So if you go in here and you create maybe like a skin and some custom scripts, can you pull those out into its own package that you can install on
There are packages that do that for you. I don't really usually do that because I mean if I'm going to put it all into a product, it's usually just creating a couple files and pasting it in there. And if it ever gets to the point where I'm doing a ton of stuff in skins and JavaScript files and stuff through the web, you don't really just like want to put it in the package right then anyways because it's annoying to work through the web and some of that stuff. And then you have no version control. Well, you do. I guess there is a history, but it's just not as good as like Subversion and stuff like that.
What kind of templating language does it use?
It uses an XML-based templating language. It's called Tal. So it's like it works. The reason why they chose it is because it works with like any kind of HTML editor still. Like it does all the syntax highlighting correctly and everything because you do this like inline XML markup to render different values. But it also has support for like Jinja and stuff like that if you want to use anything else. You can use whatever you want, but the supported one is TAL XML based one.
As well as XSLT, using a new package coming out with XDV, which allows you to separate the templating out from the content and pull in content from other sites if you want to.
That's a whole other can of worms to
Yeah.
explain the aspect of this. There's this technology that kind of came from the Python community and some Plone people that allows you to theme any site. It's like agnostic of the underlying technology through XSLT. That, like you write these rule files that are transformed into XSLT files, and it transforms the markup for you on the fly, and you can pull content in from different areas of the site or rearrange it and transform it. It's
really handy.
a whole
Store all my
Just
content.
It's a whole new ball of wax.
yeah. That's a whole other presentation.
And it just
Render it sound.
Yeah. They use it on Plone.org. That's how they pull in with Nabble and stuff into the forum
What about
discussions.
Ajax? If you want to do some kind of dynamic content,
Yeah, that sounded
for
pretty.
my user manual.
is that like is there
On
an
a-
officially supported way to do that through Plone, or
Yeah.
you kind of hack?
They have this package called
On a system
jQuery
outside
or Plone app the jQuery tools, and they
Did,
kind of want you to
e-commerce.
do all your
Corporate
Ajax like, forms and stuff through that. And they made it kind of like made it very very easy to plug into. Like you can do like I forget what it was. I don't want to try it here until I screw up. But like if you see you can like there's like a one-line thing that you can add to your JS files that will make your images pop up instead of actually when you click on them and going to that part of the site or something like that. So it's like really easy to plug into and everything.
So does it regress if you start adding those kind of features? Does it revert back to like say someone has JavaScript turned on?
Oh yeah, totally. Plone is like always been very good with like not requiring JavaScript to function. Like it always reverts back. Like every single like this history link, even though it pops up, like this is an actual page link that's actually a page. Like I can click on it and it's the page. Like you don't have to
Hello.
like how it does its Ajax request is it actually requests that whole page and then takes the content portion out of it and throws it in your pop-up. So then it allows all your links to work the same, but then you can Ajaxify your links really easily and everything. But I mean, it's like kind of Ajax is really independent of of the system. Like you use JavaScript, so it's like whatever JavaScript library you want to use, and they come with jQuery, but in jQuery, I don't know, like hardly anybody uses anything but jQuery, and at least
It's
they
one queer language.
can do whatever you want stuff.
Does it start with that
But like a lot of the stuff,
plus sign?
like the image editor was all done in
Depends on the
Ajax.
implementation.
Yeah.
That
So here it's JQ.
workflow manager was all done with Ajax. So that's pretty
It's crazy.
heavy actions.
What kind of packaging system does it use for like when you do like scripts and modules and stuff? Because
It's just
years ago it used to be eggs, right?
It's still eggs. It's just a standard Python packaging system.
Please, there's different ways of distributing eggs too. Like there's like
Set of tools.
tools.
Yeah, they just use the standard Python I don't remember what the standard Python ways of like all their packages are on PyPy, and so it's just standard Python way of doing it. And a long time ago, they used to do where you could just have like this folder of Python files, and that could be your add-on. But they got away from that. They wanted to go the standard Python way, where they distribute everything in packages. Any other questions?
I'm just looking at the Plone site on e-links. I'm just trying to see a text mode to see how
Oh yeah.
it actually is not too bad text mode.
And Plone.org is that's transformed by Deliverance too.
Oh, good.
What's the roadmap look like for going ahead with Plone? They just came out with 4 not too long ago, right?
Oh, I don't have that kind of thing. What's guest?
Guess.
Indeed.
Like I think 4.1 is
Yeah, it's at beta 1 right now.
yeah, 4.1 the beta, and I wonder if there's a roadmap easily accessible here.
Do they still do
Oh,
like
roadmap you said?
Roadmap.
Do they still do like back end release, front end release, or do they try to are they starting to do like
Back end.
Well, because like they do stuff with like Zope and those stuff. They upgrade kind of infrastructure kind of things.
Well, I mean, I think they upgrade them all at the same time, kind of thing. What they're doing is kind of getting away from a lot of they have this. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with Zope, but they have an old. It's kind of an old Java-like technology that was forced into Python, and it was good for a while, but they're slowly moving away from it. So it's still part of the fabric, but it's a lot different now than what it looks a lot different now than what it was.
Do you know
Well,
what kind
it's
of move
Python
towards
used?
that it's not Zope anymore?
It's just their own infrastructure that's like less
This is
dependent on
used to reduce
kind of
our website.
crustiness. So
Python-based website.
okay, so 4.1 will be the
Getting
next
started with
release to
groups
have.
is really
Yeah,
good.
4.2 is due in September.
The whole core developer group. Some
Okay.
people went over to Google for a while.
Text
went
mode.
back and forth. About to go overseas.
And so like this, they have a new registry system
Started off
for
at
storing
class and
application
so
settings and
like
commenting infrastructure, which is pretty nice where you can supports CAPTCHA fields and everything, and can like moderate comments really nicely and reply to existing comments. Before it was like all done in add-in packages and nothing was officially supported by Plone, but now they kind of put it into an officially supported package that's really pretty nice. Otherwise, I don't know if there's anything that crazy awesome that anybody would be interested in.
Well, Python 3
I looked at the FBI side.
Yeah, see, like,
Interesting.
no one really cares about Python 3
Just like
That's
before.
the funny thing. The first language I learned was Python 3 because it was like. The
Oh,
language-
did you really?
Yeah, and you know it was like because Python is awesome and Python 3 is the future and everybody's like 2.6 is good enough.
Yeah, well, 2.7 now, but
Yeah.
it's. I don't know. No one cares about it. Eventually, I'm sure they will. I think there's a lot of really important, like, standardizations of like WSGI and stuff that Python 3 address. addresses, and I think they do multi-threading better.
Yeah, it's the whole non-backwards compatibility that people just don't want to change all their scripts.
That'll happen in another 5 years. How long does Python ever even out for?
Python's actually really old.
Yeah.
I think Wheels and Rawson came up with it in the 80s. I mean, it wasn't popular for a while, but it's been around.
It's very easy language to learn too.
Yes. Well, it's as long as you
Looks
like
a lot like,
space
Ray
and you know that
So-
tabs and spaces are not the same, and if you make tabs and spaces together, you are a bad person. At least in Python, then everything else is all right because you really get to see the beauty of code when you use something like Python because it just looks like it'll work. The difference between pseudocode and Python is not really that big of a difference a lot of times. This is what I want it to do, and it just does it. And it's really nice to see that. Although, there's the loosely typed, loosey-goosey stuff can sometimes get people frustrated. And the tabs and spaces. Definitely the tabs and spaces. If you don't have an editor that distinguishes between the two, you're going to...
Converts tabs to spaces.
Or something that automatically converts tabs to spaces. It's a big deal.
I have a question regarding object-oriented database. I was looking online and it gave me the impression that it stored the object and the class in the database.
It's like what Python allows you to pickle an object. It's called pickling. And it pretty much just is serialization of that object. So it's tied to the class and everything. Yeah. So
so there'd
for
be
instance,
multiple instances of that class, or there would.
it's not actually the class; it's a reference to the class.
Is it like
a
It's
dictionary
the
then,
instance of
or-
the class. It's an actual serialization of the
So it kind of has a library
So
of the
so
classes
say you
and the content.
this
inside
is
the
what some people have
object.
run into. They have an object stored in the database that references a class that all of a sudden they removed that package that class was in or something. And now that database tries to pull that object and unpickle it or whatever, and it has no reference to the class.
Right.
It goes through
Pickles
there
it
because
in
it doesn't know
PHP.
how to fulfill what this class was.
So do people re-add
They have to re-add the package,
Re-add the
delete
package.
delete the object reference. That's kind of like a downside. Because it's SQL is pretty simple with its data representations, and even there's no SQL databases are not like that at all. They're not tied like that. It's a lot more simple data representations.
Yeah, I was curious about it because I use Postgres, and Postgres is an object-oriented database, but it's a lot different.
Postgres?
Yes.
You can.
You can?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I haven't used that capability of it, but I've been thinking about it.
Awesome. Alright. Well,
who wants a lanyard?
A lanyard?
free lanyards.
I'll take one.
I'll take it.
I use them for my keys.
Pass them around.
Every time I
Yes.
every time I go to
you,
the Caribbean,
Internet.
I need an extra lanyard.
Yeah, unless you have any concluding remarks, we can say goodbye to the internet unless it's already gone. Goodbye, internet. It's been fun. See you again soon.
This is your company?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Good question.
Actually, I just moved back here.
I've got some extra
Since
cannons that need a
since August
lanyard.
last year from here.
there we go.
No, he's using the
September,
lanyard, right?
whenever. I just recently moved back, so I'm in central Wisconsin. I'm working on taking over a data center.
What?
I'm working on taking over a small data center.
Oh, the break thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.